Purpose of this video is to introduce the standard zero-turn lawnmower that we use. They do come in varying sizes, either a 44 HP, 60, or a 72-inch model. This model here is a 60-inch, but all the components are the same, so this would be a good example to show exactly what the machine is made of. The learning objectives here is learn the parts of the equipment, proper use, as well as proper mowing technique. This unit here is an X-Mark mower. This is a good example. Most mowers have the same exact components, even if you're not using an X-Mark mower. This will give you a great idea of the components and how to operate the machine. Once you get on this machine here, there is a dead man switch underneath the seat to make sure the machine turns off if the operator is thrown from the machine. These are your hand controls. They come in here. To turn to the right, you'd pull towards the right and push towards the left. To go the other way, just the opposite. Pushed all the way out, it's fully engaged into neutral. To drive the mower, you have to pull in and then operate. So for the unit to start, these must be completely pushed out. The parking brake, which is here, must be fully engaged. There's a button here to release the lever. When you want to start mowing, you'd have to release the parking brake. This here by my foot is the operator assisted deck raising. So you can raise the deck if there's a spot in the lawn that's high, or if you want to pull the deck up to adjust the blades. That's right here for the height. There's a pin that's pulled in and out, and on the interior here, as you sit here, you can see the different heights spelled out. So you put the pin in to the appropriate height, pull this lever here up while you're pushing with your foot, and that engages the deck. Once again, to pull the deck up before trailering, push on the foot assist, pull this piece here up, which is spring loaded, into the lock position, transport lock, and everything will stay in place. Once that's set here, to start the machine, there is a key. This yellow button is your PTO for the blades. The PTO to pull up, to turn the blades on, to turn them off, push down. The PTO, blade engagement, must be turned off to start the mower. There's also a throttle, which is the red lever here. All the way back is throttle all the way down. All the way push forward is full throttle. When mowing, you want to be at full throttle. When going around a landscape bed or somewhere else where you don't want to blow the clippings as far, throttle back here until you get past it, and that will alleviate any of the clippings going too far into the landscape bed. So to start it, there's also choke on your right hand side, which is a black lever. To choke it, push it all the way up forward like this here. Make sure your handles are out, your PTO is off, your parking brake is on. On this X-Mark unit, there is a digital screen here that shows you your gas gauge, as well as signifies either if the arms are fully extended, your parking brake's on, and your PTO is off. So this will be a good way to determine by looking at this screen if the mower won't start, if it's something that's just not engaged as far as your brake or your handles all the way out in a neutral position. To start the unit, turn the key. Started the unit. So once you start the unit, you can throttle it up, make sure you pull the choke back, and you're ready to go. So in this next video, I'm going to show you how to properly mow a lawn with the zero-turn 60-inch mower and the proper turning techniques. So the proper turning techniques is when you come up to an area, instead of coming and spinning on a dime and ripping the lawn up where the tire is, you want to come up and do a 4-point turn or a 3-point turn and continue on. So the proper setup would be to go around the whole front of the yard and sides first. You're going to cut the front and sides of each property first in a residential setting, and then continue to the backyard. Reason being is once you've cut the front and the sides, there's less area to blow off in the back. So if the person with you is finished done weed whacking before you're done blowing or mowing, they can actually blow off 90% of the property while you finish the backyard and there's no downtime. So you want to make sure you cut the front yard and the side yards first, and then continue on to the backyard. By all means, you can definitely make a lap around the whole entire property so the person edging knows the proper height they need to edge to. But you want to make sure that when you're mowing, you're doing the front and side yards first, continue on to the back. That way the person edging, if they finish before, you can blow the whole entire property off while you're finishing up the backyard. And as you pull out of the backyard, they can touch up around a deck or patio or anything that may have gotten grass on it while you're finishing up. The parts of the zero-turn mower here, more in depth, are your throttle control, which is pushed forward like this here. Forward for full power, back to throttle down. Yellow button here is your PTO, which engages the blades. It's just simply by pulling up and down. This must be down and not engaged for the mower to start. The handlebars here, which you steer with, need to be completely out to the sides here in neutral position for the mower to start, as well as the parking brake, which is right here, must be fully pulled up and not engaged. The component to the lawnmower here is the red button here, or throttle, is for your throttle control. This black button and lever is for the choke. Pushing all the way forward is fully choked, all the way back is running position. As shown here, the throttle should be always fully engaged when mowing for proper blade tip speed. When turning the mower on and off, it should be half throttle about here. This yellow button is your blade engage, PTO. Simply to operate the blade engage, just pull up and push it down to turn it off. This must be turned off and completely down position to start the mower. And here's the key to start the engine. Your driving arms here must be fully pulled out to the sides to be in neutral, not in drive position. So once they're already pulled out, the machine's in neutral so it can start, and your parking brake must be fully pulled up and engaged for the mower to start. With all those components, the mower will start every time, and remember to make sure when you're stopping and starting the mower to use this red lever and keep the throttle at half gauge. The other component here that we want to look at is the foot assist. This is going to allow you to pick the deck up while operating, as well as when you're starting and stopping. This is a shot of the foot assist that you're going to be using to pick your blade deck up and down when you're on the mower with your foot. Right here is the settings for the blade height. Simply change the blade height by pulling this pin out and sticking it in the appropriate hole. And then pull this lever down while engaging your foot on this lever here for the deck, and it will lower the deck. And then when you want to raise it, just push this up and re-engage this lever here. Gasoline on this unit goes underneath the seat here. Make sure you can only fill up to the bottom of the nozzle, don't overfill. The purpose of this video is to show you proper mowing technique when using a zero-turn mower. As showed in the previous video, the operator controls are here. So we want to pull the throttle halfway up, choke all the way up. As shown here, PTO is off, the ignition is off. Parking brake here is pulled up, always fully engaged to start the vehicle, and the hand controls here are pushed out completely in the neutral position. Things to be aware of when you're watching this video is we're going to go around the outside of the entire property twice to give enough room for us to turn. When we're turning, we are not spinning on a dime in one fixed point. We're going to come out to a 3-point turn, and is coming up to this property here. The landscape beds behind me are going to be to my left as I come up this way. So we're going to make sure that when we cut the lawn, before we even get on the mowers, we're pulling up, we're going to be aware of what direction are we going to cut the lawn to make sure the grass is discharged away from landscape beds, cars, and the driveway to minimize our cleanup and make sure we don't damage the person's property. So as we do this video, keep these 3 things in mind: the way we're turning, where we're pointing the grass clippings, and when we're turning, we're using a 3-point turn versus just spinning on one fixed point and tearing up the customer's lawn. So we're going to come up to the property, we're going to cut the front yard and side yards first, and then continue to the backyard to allow the person line trimming when they're done to blow off the front of the unit if we're still cutting in the backyard. So here we go, we're going to start the unit up. I'm going to start here, coming up this way, and turning in towards the interior to make sure all the grass clippings are directed inside the yard and not back towards the house or the car that is parked here. Other thing to keep in mind, we're filming this in mid-July, early August. The grass is slowed down so it's not long and wet, but in the fall, if there is any clumping, we want to make sure that we do not leave a yard with any clumps in it. The best way to fix a yard with extreme amount of clumps is to double cut it. So if you're cutting it 3.5, once the yard's completely cut, raise the blades up 3/4 of an inch, and then recut the yard in the opposite direction. By doing so, that's going to distribute the clippings in an orderly fashion and avoid having to manually go through with a blower and blow them out. Now, if there's only a few clumps, You need to use your judgment. Use the backpack blower when you're blowing the yard off to distribute those even. So the takeaways here are, if you're in the spring and the fall and you have some clumps, cut in the opposite direction with the blades raised up approximately 3/4 of an inch. It's going to allow the deck to suck the clippings up a little bit more without having to recut the lawn and go a little bit faster than the original cut. Turning, 3-point turns, and make sure you're not blowing the clippings in towards landscape beds, house, or car. And here we go. Now that we've gone around the property twice, we've got a sufficient room to turn the mower in. So now I'm going to go and continue cutting the lawn. And as I go, I'm going to be turning in a 2-point turn, or a 3-point turn. And making sure when I'm turning, I'm starting from this side of the property, working to the other, and I'm blowing the clippings to my right. So I want to make sure as I'm turning this way, the clippings are being blown inside the yard and not in towards this car or the landscape beds. Stopping the machine, you take the driving arms, push them out, parking brake up, to disengage the blade or deck height, push them with your foot, engage this here, transport lock. You see here it didn't lock, you can hear it click, just like this here. We're set to put it on the trailer. So remember, key learning points and objectives: turning, 3-point stance turn, be aware where you're blowing the clippings, always make sure you're blowing them on the inside of the yard, you're always cutting the front and side yards first, and then continuing to the backyard. As you're on the mower, be aware of where the gentleman with you or lady is trimming and that they're following the trimming system. While you're on the mower, you're not only paying attention to mowing, but keeping an eye on the trimmer to make sure there's no missed areas and make sure the quality and attention to detail is there. Because ultimately, the person on the mower is going to have more of a bird's eye view of what's being done on the property versus the person with their head down weed whacking right in front of them. Those are the proper techniques for lawn mowing with a zero-turn mower.